Hey everyone, and welcome. My name is Elia, and I'm here with GameOverJesse today because we have a new series requested by all of you and our Patreon supporters. In fact, this list of Zelda theories was sent in by our amazing Patreon supporter, Jacob. You'll notice that some of these theories are incredibly bad, and others are very well thought out. So we're going to go through and explain and discuss how great or horrible they are. On our podcast, the Hylian Gamescast, we've had similar videos with all of our faces on camera. However, this time we will have the theory on screen for everyone to read along. And we definitely encourage you to give your thoughts on all of these theories in the comments, and we will discuss them with you. If you come across a list that you would like us to discuss, then by all means, please send it to us on our Twitter or Instagram. Links will be in the description. And if you want to guarantee your theory or list getting discussed, then you ought to check out the Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/GameOverJesse.
Yes, just as Ilya said, here we are on the Gamer's website. It's a list that they call 7 incredible The Legend of Zelda fan theories that were actually confirmed, and 12 that should be. So here we have 19 different Zelda theories on screen. We're going to read what they have to say about it and give our thoughts. So let's begin here with number 20. It says, theory confirmed. Twilight Princess is a sequel to Majora's Mask. This theory was confirmed by the almighty Hyrule Historia. Twilight Princess comes after Majora's Mask in the Child Era timeline. The timelines are essential to understanding most theories. Hang on to your hats if you're not well versed in the 3 timelines, because I'm going to explain that right now. Blame Ocarina of Time for the timelines. Due to the time travel in that game, 3 timelines were created that influenced how Hyrule is in each game a great deal. Link fails to defeat Ganondorf in one, Child Link protects the Sacred Realm in another, and the third is one where Adult Link has Ganondorf sealed. According to Aonuma, the designer, director, producer, and manager of The Legend of Zelda, as Majora's Mask continues the story of young Link from Ocarina of Time, it therefore takes place shortly after Ocarina of Time and over 100 years before Twilight Princess. Now, Ilya, everyone watching, the problem that I have with this is I feel this would be something obvious. Like, I noticed on this list, because I went over it earlier, there are 19 different things on this list. It says 20 right here, but one of these things, I think it's number 7, is just an ad. So I don't know, like, and because they used that ad to make the list a top 20 list, because if you Google top 5 Zelda theories, or if you just Google like the best fan-made Zelda theories, and then you see a video that's like the top 10 best Zelda theories, and then you see one that's the top 20 best Zelda theories, most likely you're going to click on the one that has 20, because chances are it's going to have all of, if not most of the theories that's in the top 10 list, as well as a few more. So I feel that, and you'll see this as well, I think that they're just padding out their list to make it 20 with a lot of things that aren't really theories. They're things that are confirmed in the game as you play them. So an extreme example would be like Zelda theory confirmed. Link can fish in Twilight Princess, or Zelda theory confirmed. Link can wear masks in Majora's Mask. That's basically what some of these are. As we get to later, you'll see very, very good examples of this. But some of the theories are really great, and then there are some that are just as if they haven't even played a Zelda game. But I feel like most of these are going to be like this, to where it's just stuff that's kind of common sense, because in the game, you find out that Ganondorf, like, it literally tells you in the game, Ganondorf, after the events of Ocarina of Time, was sentenced to the Twilight Realm because of his plans and actions against the Kingdom of Hyrule. And we even see that cutscene. That's one of the main cutscenes from the game, where he's with the sages on top of the Arbiter's grounds, and it gets sealed in the Twilight Realm for the first time. We see that. Like, it's literally in the game. I think a theory, for something to be called a theory, I think it would be something that was left unexplained in the game that you play. You complete the game 100%, and it just kind of gives little nods or details or hints towards a larger picture. So you can create a theory about that. But if you're playing the game and the game literally answers it for you, then it's not, I don't think that should count as a theory. Like if you're playing Majora's Mask and you come across Michael, I forgot how to pronounce his name, the Zora that you get the mask from.
I pronounce it Mikau, but it might depend.
So if you come across him, and in your head, you're like, oh, I have a theory that I'm going to be able to turn into a Zora. And then 10 minutes later, after you heal him, I guess healing his spirit at least, because sadly he passes away, but you end up getting the mask and you can transform into the Zora. So if it's something that the game tells you or confirms while you're playing it, I don't think that should count as a theory. Like if you're playing, I don't even know, Skyward Sword, and you get the Goddess Sword, is what it's called at first, I believe. And you're like, oh, I have a theory that the Goddess Sword becomes the Master Sword. I don't think that should necessarily count as a theory, because if you just keep playing the game, you'll see it eventually does become the Master Sword. A theory should be something that's left unexplained, like the origins of the Happy Mask Salesman. You can play through Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, even Oracle of Ages, I believe, because he's in one of the Oracle games as well. But you can play through all of those games, and it's still left very, like, mysterious and vague. There's nothing really there for you. All you know is that he knows magical songs. He can apparently vanish like he did at the very end. He has knowledge of powerful items and masks and stuff. So, yeah, like, his backstory is really vague. You can create a theory on that. But something simple like this, to where it's like, Twilight Princess is a sequel to Majora's Mask. That's the most obvious thing. Like, even in the game, I think it tells you that the hero, like Link is a descendant of the hero from Ocarina of Time. And then it doesn't necessarily say that the soldier, or not the soldier, the hero shade is the hero of time, but it's very, very implied. And there's a lot of other things that have connections and callbacks to Ocarina of Time, and it's just the thing that's like, it's not a theory, this is just common sense. Like, if you play the game, you find out. Anyways, sorry for that long explanation. Ilya, what are your thoughts on this? Did you know that Twilight Princess was a sequel to Ocarina of Time? How crazy is that theory?
Yes, and I didn't know it for the same reason that they put in here. Because in here, like you said, they say, oh, it's confirmed because of the timeline. And I'm like, okay, maybe if someone hasn't played Twilight Princess, that's how they might get it confirmed. But most people that own things like Hyrule Historia, odds are they've played, or at least seen Let's Play, or at least, but beyond that, know the stories of these games. And if you know these games, especially a main console game that did well, like Twilight Princess, then you already know about that scene with the hero shade. And it's pretty much confirmed in game. Yeah, it's a tiny bit vague, but in the game, he literally says, my son, or he's like, it's proven that he is the bloodline descendant of that hero, which was confirmed to be the hero of time by Aonuma and others. So it's like, well, it's like you said, it's not a theory if it's, was confirmed. Yeah. It's one thing when, like, it's confirmed because another game comes out that confirms that.
Yeah.
that one thing, or if someone comes out and says, "Oh, I confirm that's the hero of time," but saying that it takes place in the child timeline, I'm like, that wasn't confirmed. That was just kind of decided. That's just fact.
Yeah,
That's just always been.
it's kind of like if someone was like, I have a theory that the Great Deku Tree created the Kokiri. It's like,
Really?
that's not a theory. Like, the game literally tells you that. Like, that's just something like common sense. And that's how I look at this theory.
Yeah.
But you can take the next one, number 19 on our list, which is actually number 18 because there's an ad later on.
Should we say the actual numbers or just do one less since it, or should we get to like 7 and be like, well, number 7's an ad?
We'll just say 19 because they'll see
the
number on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be reading along with us and everything. So, but it confused me earlier because I actually got to the ad and I was like, oh, well, maybe I need to watch a video or something. And then it'll show it. But
and then they say like in the title 7 and 12, so I'm like, that doesn't add up.
Yeah. But yeah, you can keep going unless you have any more to say on the other thing, and I'll just edit out this part. But I think this video will be really good. So like I have a feeling people will like it because instead of just putting it on as background noise or watching us talk about it, because some people actually do like watching us to see our reactions and everything, but a lot of people put it on while they're playing a game or working out or something.
I do that sometimes.
Yeah. But you watch the podcasts?
No, I just mean like videos in general. Sometimes I'll be cleaning my room and I'll have my watch later playlist going.
Yeah. So with this, I think a lot of people will like read along with us, and then while we're discussing it, they'll put their theories in the comments, or at least I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. That way YouTube will end up promoting the video more because more people were commenting and interacting and stuff. So
yeah,
because even if we come across something that someone hates, then they'll still comment and be like, well, that theory doesn't make sense at all. So anyways, I'm sorry, I'm rambling again.
No, you're good, man. All right, number 19. So, number 19. Should be true. Lost Woods are the Forbidden Woods and the Sacred Grove. The Lost Woods in an infamous location of the Legend of Zelda series. That's a typo. The Lost Woods is an infamous location of the Legend of Zelda series. Basically, it's a forest where people get lost, and if they get lost for too long, they become monsters. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah. Skull kids. They become skull kids or skulltulas.
Yeah. Or if they're an adult, skulltulas.
Yeah.
Or not skulltulas, that's a spider.
Oh yeah.
They become Stalfos.
Wait, Stalfos?
Stallchild and Stalfos.
Oh, there's so many weird things. I just say like skeleton kids.
Basically.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of how infamous this location is, the Lost Woods appear in these games: The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Oracle of Seasons, Four Swords Adventures, The Minish Cap, Spirit Tracks, A Link Between Worlds, and Breath of the Wild. That's a lot of games. Even if you happen to play a game without the Lost Woods, like Twilight Princess, you still basically have the same deal with the Sacred Grove with some different woods. But are they so different? Same music, same location. I think it's just the same place under a different name. And to that I would say I don't think of a reason. Can't think of a reason to disagree. Especially, I think we've discussed in podcasts before, it's kind of hard to base theories on any sort of geography in The Legend of Zelda because they purposely change the maps, not drastically, but enough to make the games different and interesting. But I mean, at least when I played Twilight Princess, I always kind of considered it the Lost Woods, but you know, it's just a long, long time after Ocarina of Time, so they changed it to something else, being Faron Woods, named after a goddess, or that respective spirit. So it's like, it's basically the Lost Woods.
And Faron,
you know?
I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the Lost Woods. It's got the Skull Kid in it, whether it's the same Skull Kid or not. I've heard it both ways. But, I mean, no one says anything about getting lost and turning into something else, but I mean, I always considered it to be basically the same idea, just looks a lot different. And what is the different name?
Yeah, so basically, the way that I look at it, because Majora's Mask also has its own version of the Lost Woods.
True.
I forgot what it's called, but
So did I.
I want to say like the mysterious forest, but I know that's probably wrong. But in that game, like the monkey kind of leads you around to get the good versions of Twinrova and help them out. But in Twilight Princess, instead of the monkey helping you out, it is the Skull Kid. And in A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds, they also have the Sacred Grove, which is connected or close to the Lost Woods. And in Twilight Princess, you just have the Sacred Grove. So I think what it is there are now new people living in the forest. In Ocarina of Time, there was the Kokiri living there. And the Kokiri were probably the ones who referred to it as the Lost Woods. Because the Lost Woods and the Kokiri Forest, everything was created by the Deku Tree. And the Deku Tree and the Kokiri likely named the forest or whatever after themselves, and then named the woods the Lost Woods because you get lost in it.
Yep.
And in Twilight Princess, the Kokiri aren't really around. So it could be that the Ordonians, or Ordons, the humans that came in, that moved there, they didn't necessarily know that the Kokiri called it the Lost Woods, so they just came up with their own name for it. And I think that's basically it, because if you look at the way that you navigate through it, it's, woods, a forested area, and you can get lost in it. So technically speaking, you could call it the Lost Woods. I think it is intended to be the same Lost Woods. It's just on the GameCube, there's a lot more graphical power and technical stuff that they can do. So it just looks bigger and different and has more detail and more stuff. And of course, as Ilya mentioned, geography-based theories they're not completely solid, because you do have interviews with Aonuma, Miyamoto, and everyone saying that they purposefully change the way that certain areas look and where they're located because they think that if everything looked the same, like when you play A Link to the Past and then A Link Between Worlds, if every single game was like that, to where it was only minor changes, it would be very boring. You would know, like, there would be no point in exploring, or that adventurous feeling would be taken away, because in your head you're like, okay, well, Lake Hylia is there, this other place is here, Kokiri Forest is there, Kakariko Village is up here. And another part of that shows that the lore and backstory on geography-based theories don't really mean a lot, because the prime example that I can think of, and I'm actually working on another video that mentions this, there is the biggest geographical theory that I can think of that people like to discuss, or at least the most popular, is Kakariko Village and the Hidden Village, which is hinted at being the old Kakariko Village, and it confuses a lot of people because technically the old Kakariko Village would be the one in Ocarina of Time, and the new Kakariko Village is located at the same place that the one in Ocarina of Time was, which is right below Death Mountain, like on the trail of Death Mountain, close to the Gorons and everyone. And so that brings up a lot of confusion and stuff, because they kind of hint at it being the same Kakariko Village from Ocarina of Time, because if it's meant to be the old one, then that's the old one, unless it was older than that as well, which brings up even more confusion. But the entire segment where you have to go there to get the Ancient Sky book from Impaz, who is the last remaining Sheikah, or at least we're led to believe she is the last remaining Sheikah. And then you get the book from her, and then you can kind of read the statues, and that leads you to the city in the sky. That entire segment would have been completely different, which would have completely changed the entire backstory and lore theory behind the Kakariko villages and the ancient hidden village, because in the Iwata Asks interview for Twilight Princess, he spoke to a lot of different developers that worked on the games, and he was asking each one individually what their favorite part of the game was that they worked on, or the favorite part that they didn't work on. And one of the people said that their favorite part was the I forgot exactly what he said, but basically he was goofing off, creating something that was purposefully different from the rest of Twilight Princess, something that he could just have fun on whenever he doesn't need to necessarily do something super important. And on his own, he created the hidden village with the Western style theme, to where it's kind of like a shootout, and then the hide and seek thing. But he didn't have any reason for you to go there. Originally, he made it, they weren't even going to have it in the game, but he liked it so much, and he convinced other people that the shootout part of it was fun. So they had to think of a way, like, we already have the story in the game. We already have where everything's located, but how do we fit this in? So they ended up putting it, like, kind of hiding it off by itself instead of having it out in the open, kind of like how Kakariko Village is, to where it's not necessarily blocked off or anything. You can just go there freely, but you can't do that with the hidden village. So at first, it wasn't going to be in the game. And then they decided they were going to put it in the game, but it was going to be entirely optional. But then they kept having so much fun with it, and like tweaking where the enemies were located and where the different animals, the cats that you would find, are located. And they ended up liking it so much that they wanted it to be somehow a main focus in the game. Originally, you could have played through the game, skipped it entirely. They loved it so much that they wanted to basically force people to go there. So they made it a crucial part of the story, where you get the ancient skybook. And then they put the last remaining Sheikah member there, which is what brings in the confusion, because if there's only one Sheikah left, Impaz, then the Sheikah always have theories and stuff. So anyways, what I'm saying is, everyone tries coming up with these theories on lore and geography and everything, and Nintendo had no intentions of giving Kakariko Village or this hidden village any lore or backstory at all. Originally, it was just going to be, oh, you can go to this area and there's a mini game. But then they liked it, so then they put Impaz there so that you would be forced to go there. Before, you probably would have went to like a different section of Lake Hylia or Hyrule Castle. Like maybe there was a building somewhere in Hyrule Castle that you would go into, and then you would find Impaz. But because they liked it so much, they put Impaz there, which completely changes the lore and everything. So it's a long way of explaining it, but it's basically, yeah. And then there's another interview where, no, actually, it was the same Iwata Asks, but this time he was talking to, I forgot who it was, but he was talking about how Miyamoto would always come in at the last minute and completely change everything. And Ordon Village, at first, they, in one of the interviews, I don't know if it's on Iwata Asks or another one, they said that Ordon Village and where Link began in the game was completely different than what it is in the final game. Because they had worked on one beginning to where you began the game as Wolf Link, and you were in Ordon Village, but Ordon Village was located in a different area. And then Miyamoto, or Aonuma, came in and was like, this is fun, but what if we did this? And then they changed it to where now you're a human. Now Ordon Village is located in the south. Now it's suddenly connected to the Sacred Grove or whatever. Whereas before it would have been in a completely different location that we don't know about. It could have been in the location that the the hidden village was before they made it a priority in the game. So who knows? Like, the entire map was just like the geography just really does not matter for theories. And then another thing that they did in Twilight Princess, I'm probably going to edit this down because I've been going on for a long time. But another interview in Twilight Princess, whenever they made the world, they didn't make the world as we know it now. They just made, like, one team worked on Lake Hylia, one team worked on Kakariko Village, one worked on Hyrule Castle. And then after they had all of these places created, they decided, okay, where would we put, like, where would it make sense for Lake Hylia to be? And then they just put Hyrule Castle in the beginning and then placed everything where they thought it would feel right for each area. Because originally they said the world was about half the size, and then they ended up spreading it out and making it larger. And that's why you get, like in Breath of the Wild, everything is connected. Kakariko Village doesn't have like a single small trail leading to it. You can go to it from almost any direction. And the same with some of the other areas. But with Twilight Princess, they have like Kakariko Village and Death Mountain to the right, the desert, the Gerudo Desert and everything all the way to the left, Ordon Village to the south, and they just like placed everything in random spots. Not random spots, but they just placed it in different areas on the map, and then they created the world of Hyrule, and then that's why you have these little tangents that break off and go to the areas. Like you have a big area like Kakariko Village, and then you have a big area like Hyrule Field. But then to get to it, there's just like a narrow, tiny little path to go there. And that's because all of the areas weren't created to be in this giant world. They were created individually and then placed and then connected with these little lines and stuff. And that's why there's so many tiny little narrow paths in Twilight Princess. Again, I went on for a long time. I apologize. But since I went on for a while, Ilya, do you have any final thoughts on this? Because I think Lost Woods, yeah, it's the Lost Woods. There's the Skull Kid in it that like leads you around. He is playing Saria's song, I believe.
Yeah,
and then
you hear it throughout the whole time.
Yeah, and then you have to follow the music to get closer to him, and he's the one that's playing the music. That's how you find him. So there's that. And then the fact that you teach the Skull Kid in Ocarina of Time how to play the Saria song. And there are also the other two Skull Kids that you come across to play with, and they they give you a heart piece and something else, I think. But you just have to play exactly what they're doing. It's in the same area where you get the Deku Seed bag upgrade.
Yep.
But yeah, so I think it's Lost Woods. I think this is an example of something that is a theory because nothing in the game actually confirms it. You can play this game, all of the other games, it never says this is the Lost Woods, whereas in Ocarina of Time, I think before you enter the Lost Woods from Kokiri Forest, there's literally a sign that says Lost Woods. And then I believe when you first go in, Gaebora, the owl, also tells you, hey, this is the Lost Woods. Just listen for the music. When the music gets louder, that's the direction that you need to go. And that's also the same way that you make your way through the Lost Woods in Twilight Princess, or the Sacred Grove in Twilight Princess.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It pretty much is, but yeah, this is a better example of a theory.
Yes. So take us on to the next one, Ilya, since I was talking for so long on that.
You're good. All right. Number 18. Should be true. Tetra's pirates are reincarnations or relatives of her aides. Mako, Nico, Nudge, Senza, and Zuko are Tetra's loyal crew of pirates. Very little is known about their background, except that they used to serve under Tetra's mother's orders before she died, and now they serve Tetra. But if you look at a portrait in the sunken Hyrule Castle, you may find that the pirates bear a striking resemblance to Princess Zelda's courtiers. Since we eventually find out that Tetra is Princess Zelda, we may also assume that the pirate crew and castle aides could be related in some fashion. Whenever Tetra's ancestor Tetra's ancestor fled the Great Flood, they were probably accompanied by the aide that descended into the Tetra pirates we know. In a way, they are still aides who guard and serve her with the same loyalty as the castle aide. This is something I've definitely looked at before because a lot of us have seen that portrait and we're like, huh, they do look similar.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it possibly being true since they do look the same. And we all know that reincarnation is a big thing in The Legend of Zelda because Link, unless there's like a direct, I mean, even if he is a direct blood descendant of a different Link, he is still a reincarnation of the hero. Essentially, starting with Skyward Sword Link, the embodiment of that hero. So it's definitely possible they are reincarnations, but sometimes relatives do look strikingly similar. I would actually probably go more with the relative, or excuse me, not the relative, the reincarnation more than the relative. But then again, I don't know. Either could be just as true. I think it's probably just a funny little Easter egg they put in there, like, hey, old Zelda had aides that look just like Tetra's fellow pirates. Interesting. But I could see it being a thing.
Yeah, I think it could be either that they look like them because they are the descendants of them, but then they could also look like them because they are just the reincarnation later on. But because they were together in Hyrule Castle, and then they all looked the same, and with Tetra's crew, they all look the same as well. It's likely that they all kind of stuck together and helped each other out since the world was flooded. Not necessarily Tetra and her crew, but their parents and grandparents, or however many generations had passed since the original picture was taken. When I was thinking about or talking about this earlier, I made I guess it's not really a joke, but I was talking about how why would these royal people end up turning into thieving, nasty pirates? And my thought was, as royalty, her and her friends or her aides are probably used to asking for and getting whatever they want. So after the world starts, chaos is rising, the world's flooding, and they're escaping, over time, where they started out being used to getting whatever they wanted because they were royalty, now they're not. So instead of someone giving them what they want, they're just taking what they want. And then that's how they slowly turned into the pirate crew. So that was just my thought on it. And then...
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's not really much else to say, but like people like Beale, we don't necessarily know that they're direct descendants, but they do look the same, so they're a reincarnation. And then in the same game, we also have a bunch of different Tingles that we do. Like, Tingle appeared in Majora's Mask, so he wasn't necessarily in Hyrule, but we know people can travel between the two, so he could have made his way to Hyrule because we see him like traveling everywhere, floating everywhere. So it's very possible that he could have made his way to Hyrule, had a family somehow, and then a few generations later we have the other Tingle. So, or it could just be a reincarnation. But either way, there's a bunch of lookalikes, so it's very common for a lot of people to look like other people. Even Minish Cap is a 2D Zelda game on the Game Boy Advance that has a lot of characters taken from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, to where you have like a 2D pixel version of Malon and her father and everyone. So
yeah, and that takes place pre-timeline split, correct?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, Minish Cap is before Ocarina of Time. So you do have those people that look alike. So, descendants
Yeah.
or reincarnations, whatever it is. Usually, I think most of the time it's just Nintendo thinks, oh, well, if we make this character look like this character, then maybe it'll be like a fun callback for the people who did play the past games.
Yeah. It's probably what it is, but it's always nice, like, from a lore standpoint for us to
Yeah.
theorize and be like, what if it is this?
Yeah.
Which is what we love to do.
Yeah. Like, I forgot what game it was. Maybe A Link Between Worlds, but there was one game where you go into a room and they have the pictures on the wall, but they're pictures of sages from Ocarina of Time, I believe.
I think that's Wind Waker. The Hyrule Castle, the stained glass windows are them.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what I was thinking.
And then in A Link Between Worlds, you have Majora's Mask, just, casually in Link's house.
Yeah.
We're all like, what?
But yeah, like, Nintendo, they've said in interviews, like, they purposefully put certain details in places to make the player think. Like, whenever they put Majora's Mask on the wall in A Link Between Worlds, it was sort of breaking the fourth wall, because I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with lore at all. Like, that he had Majora's Mask on the wall. Like, I don't know if it was necessarily canon to the story because no one even references it, but I think it was just like a nod or a hint to get people thinking that they were also working on Majora's Mask 3D, because they were working on the games at the same time. And I think that's what it was. And then even in Ocarina of Time 3D, they put a bunch of Skyward Sword paintings in the game throughout. And they're not necessarily canon to the game or the lore, they're just there to get the players to think. They even, in Twilight Princess HD, they have the Zelda Wii U picture on the wall in Malo's Mart, I think.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, I went on a tangent again, but that's why most of you watch these videos.
That's true.
I guess I can do the next one. This is one that's like, this is not a theory. It's something that's like confirmed in the game.
I was just thinking, I'm pretty sure this is confirmed in game.
So, number 17, confirmed. The Rito and Wind Waker are descended from the Zora. This is basically like saying again, Zelda theory confirmed. In Majora's Mask, Link buys a map from Tingle. Like, it's stating the obvious that we know is in the game. Anyways, they do have kind of a funny picture here with a Zora with, it's kind of like a math problem. Zora plus water equals birds. So a lot of fans were unhappy at this theory confirmation in Wind Waker. Oh yeah, okay, so I thought that was another typo. Most to all of Hyrule is submerged in water, but the Zora, who live in the sea, are nowhere. Well, guess what? They turned into Rito, the bird people. You can easily guess why this upsets a lot of people. You take a fish, you add water, and they're bird people. What? They transformed because the sea was full of monsters. Also in Wind Waker, this is the thing that I don't understand. They kind of make fun of the reason here in the quote, but then they immediately followed up with why they became. So like they kind of say like, oh, this doesn't make sense, but then they explain why it happened. So like, I understand putting the joke there, like fish plus water, whatever. But anyways, like it's anyways, they transformed because the sea was full of monsters. Also in Wind Waker, the Ritos say that they only were able to get their wings when the dragon Valu gives them a skill, which can imply that he kickstarted their evolution. The confirmation is in the Hyrule Historia in the English version of the book on page 128. It says, quote, the Zora tribe, who now bear bird-like beaks, have transformed into the Rito. So that was obviously mentioned in the book. They have the quote there, but this is something also that the game also tells you, to where, what is it? the pearl, where the one thing that you find for the child Rito is basically the symbol for
Yeah.
the Zora, and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like it's just one of those things. Like the game tells you this. Like I don't think it necessarily anyone tells you in the game. Like you don't talk to a character and he says, "Hi, the Zora evolved into the Rito," but the game puts enough there to make you understand that they did.
Especially since like Medley is a sage and the sage before her is a Zora. Kind of like
Exactly.
with Makar, the sage before him is a Kokiri child. So you know,
Yes.
oh, stuff happened. If anything, the theory is not did they become birds? The theory is why did they become birds? Because I knew that was speculation for a while because we were like, wait, I don't understand. Even though I'm pretty sure that's even said in game. It was just further confirmed in the book, I guess, saying like they were monsters, they couldn't deal with it. Because that was always a joke, like, oh, Zora plus water, for some reason, they become birds. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I'd have to go back and play, but I think actually that is said in game, like, the water was full of monsters, so we needed to adapt. But again, like, the idea of confirming the theory is like, that wasn't a theory because it was right there in the game. It wasn't
Yeah.
super explicit, but if you're paying attention to the story going on, especially between the sages, then you would know.
Yeah. And there are multiple versions of the Zora. Like there are the river Zora that you see in like A
Mm-hmm.
Link to the Past, I believe. And
And A
then
Link Between Worlds.
yeah, and even I think they're even in the original Zelda game, like they pop up and shoot the things at you
Yes,
through
they
the
are.
water. But then there are the nice Zora that we also come across. And um I believe they're freshwater fish because they are the reason for Hyrule's water supply. Like it all originates from Zora's domain, is what we're told.
Yeah.
And if that water is what they live in, and that's also the water that all of the people drink, then it's presumed they are freshwater fish, and the sea is saltwater. And if you put a normal
Yeah.
fish in salt water, or you take a saltwater fish and put it in normal water, sometimes they can live depending on what they are, but a lot of the time they'll slowly start to die. You have to, like, if you buy saltwater fish, there's a lot of stuff that you have to do to your tank before you can actually put it in there. Like, you have to have a week or so of the water getting to like the exact chemical levels and everything, and like just enough
Yep.
salt and things. Anyways, yeah, that was a quick one. Do you want to do the next one? Number 16.
Sure. Oh, Happy Mask Salesman.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's got the Mario mask there.
Yay. Number 16. Should be true. Happy Mask Salesman is not human. I feel like adding no duh to the title, but no litany or in-game information has actually confirms this. I think they mean to say has actually confirmed this. This guy is probably one of the most memorable characters of the Legend of Zelda franchise due to his creepy behavior and look. Not to mention that he is a masked salesman, which symbolically screams, he's not what he seems. He moves erratically, warping from one animation to the next. One moment he can be talking to Link, and the next he's attacking the boy. No other character in the game moves like that. He's in Clocktown, but no one in Clocktown ever mentions him, and he interacts with no one but Link. Also, at the end of the game, he disappears and we see him literally fade out of existence. Ghost? Deity? We still don't know, but he's definitely not human. This is something I've actually seen a lot of different videos and blogs and articles about, wondering like what he is, because it's like Link's the only other person except for the Skull Kid that gets over to Clocktown since it's a parallel universe. So it's like, how did you do that? Who are you? You are not an innocent man. You are scary, and you can play that giant piano. I don't understand.
Yeah,
Um,
he pulls it
but
out
that
of
is
nowhere.
like, yeah, and the whole idea of him, like, fading away and stuff. I used to think as a kid, like, oh, they just didn't want to finish the animation. And then years later, I realized, oh, wait, no, Link makes a face after that and is like, huh, where'd he go? But yeah, there is something about him that seems too much, especially because he does say, like, he teaches him the Song of Healing, and he knows that everything's going to be fine. He's like, yeah, the world it. He's too nonchalant about some things, and then totally not nonchalant about other things. And you're like, dude, what is going on? So I could see him being like, not necessarily a ghost or a deity, but someone with powers, kind of on the level of like maybe Zelda, where like, okay, she's a goddess incarnate, obviously, but maybe a little bit lesser than that. He has some sort of power, or maybe he is a deity.
So with the Happy Mask Salesman, I totally agree that he could be some sort of deity. He does have the purple that reminds a lot of people of the Sheikah, and then much like the Sheikah, he also seems to have some sort of special abilities where he's able to kind of disappear and vanish, sort of in a similar way to the way that Zelda did as Sheik in Ocarina of Time, to where like she uses the Deku Nut, but then she vanishes or whatever, her ninja skills. But we don't necessarily know if it's like actual magic, because we do know that people can just magically warp to different places. Link does it with the Ocarina, so probably other ways to do it. We see like Zant turn into the little digital pixel squares and float away in Twilight Princess.
Oh yeah.
Midna lets Link do that as well. So there are many, many different characters, not necessarily only the Sheikah, that have these abilities where in this, I think it mentions how he just disappears like a ghost, fades out. So
yep.
And he also has, he just randomly pulls out a giant organ from nowhere. And then he has all of the masks. He has knowledge of Majora's Mask, how to properly use it, because from all we know, the entire time that he had the mask, he never put it on. So he may have been tempted to put on the mask, kind of like Frodo in Lord of the Rings to put on the ring or something.
Yeah.
But he knew not to. So, so I don't think he's evil, or else he would have done a bunch of horrible stuff while he was in possession of the mask. And he probably would have just let the moon crash on Termina without even caring. And then, so we know he is sort of a hero because he is actively trying to save Termina, even if the only reason is to get back his mask. But then he also helps out Link and a bunch of other stuff. And when Link travels back and forth through time, it seems everyone else is affected by it except the Mask Salesman. So when you travel back to the first moment that you arrive in Termina, when you first walk through the door in that cutscene place, you can warp back to that very moment, and you can go back in and talk to him, and he still remembers everything about you coming back and not bringing the mask on the third day or whatever.
Yep.
So he's unaffected by time. He wears the purple and stuff that everyone, I don't really remember why, but everyone thinks it has some relation to the Sheikah. I forgot exactly what it was.
It's all part of the Tetra Force theory, I believe.
The purple?
Yeah, because we have like the colors blue, red, and green with the Triforce, and then they think like purple's the outlier and has to do with the Tetra Force theory or whatever.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would call him a deity, but I would say that he does have special abilities. Whether he is a member of like the Sheikah tribe or some other magical tribe, like we know the Interlopers were a magical tribe. There's a tribe that they just call like the Dark Tribe. That's hinted at being the same thing. So there's all of these different characters that have special abilities and magic. It's actually quite common in the Zelda series. So I do believe that he has some sort of abilities, and that's where the mystery kind of ends because, well, actually, I guess that's where the mystery begins, not ends, because we don't know how he got any of the knowledge that he has or the power abilities that he has. But to answer the original question, should be true, Happy Mask Salesman is not human. Technically, no, he is not human, because in the Zelda series, humans have round ears.
Yep.
Hylians have pointed ears. So, simple answer, no, he is not human, he is Hylian. Yes, there is a difference. I do not know what it is. I just know that like the Ordonians and everyone are humans because they have the rounded ears, and they're not considered part of the Hylian kingdom because they are not Hylians. Right. So there is a huge difference there. The Hylians were, I think they were both created by the goddesses, but maybe the humans came much later.
Yeah.
But it's never really, like, they explain how the Hylians came to be, but they never explain how the humans came to be. They're just randomly introduced.
I always kind of wondered, and this is kind of like a side theory, I always kind of wondered if, because they say the reason the Hylians have pointy ears is to be able to hear the god and goddesses better.
I forgot about that.
So I always kind of wondered, I was like, okay, with there being human, non-pointy ears in Twilight Princess, is it because they were, somehow these were a group of people that were particularly not attentive to the will of the goddesses, I assume? I don't know, that was just kind of a thought I had.
Yeah, because we have, like, they talk about the interlopers and everyone, which are presumed to be Sheikah members that decided to go against the goddesses and the royal family. Much like the, I would say it would be a group that predates the Yiga clan, because it's basically the Yiga, but before they actually called themselves the Yiga, because they're all Sheikah members that ended up like trying to go for Ganondorf. And then we know that, like in A Link to the Past, the Dark World is full of a bunch of people that tried getting the Triforce for themselves, and they were changed into monsters and stuff. So maybe just the people that stopped having faith or stopped believing ended up with the round ears, and that's why you don't see them in the castle, because Hyrule Castle Town and like the royal family and the Sheikah are meant to protect the royal family and protect the Triforce and the Hylia, the goddesses and everything. And the people who are living around them that are also protected by the castle walls and everything are Hylians. So maybe they are allowed in and protected and allowed to live there and everything because they also believe in Hylia and the goddesses and everyone, while everyone else might have just slowly lost their faith and then became humans.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Because earlier we were talking about the Rito. As hard as it might be for someone to sit and think that a Hylian could become a human, that one could like go into the other, you have to also think that it is a fact that a fish turned into a bird, and little magical kids that never age turned into large wooden sticks. So like if the game tells us that a magical kid can turn into a wooden creature that can fly, has like a tiny bit of magical abilities, and a fish, like a humanoid fish, can turn into a humanoid bird, like those are much more extreme and harder to believe than a human or a Hylian losing faith and turning into a human. So
yeah, seriously.
Yeah. So it's very, very possible, but it never actually tells us the humans and that. So I guess that could be like a bonus theory on there that we talked about.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, I might do a video on that at some point.
Yeah, that you had a really great idea though, because I remember I looked up a few weeks ago about the humans, and it never says anything about them. It's just like they were there and that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did the first 5. Would you want to go to 15 to 11 and then like try to get through them faster instead of getting off topic, or do you want to just end it now?
No, I can keep going, especially because 15, I think, is going to be real quick. Just have a feeling.
Yeah. Also, I have a video that I made talking exactly about this. I think.
Yeah, I remember that because that was before I was a part of everything, and it was and I was looking up people's different ideas on who the old man was. So I was like,
and pick
wow.
up Link to the Past and have a great time with it. You know, you always talk about.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people turned out to be right.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.